I've been a long-time lurker of the subreddit, but finally wanted to share my experience. This all happened when I was 6 years old, and I still remember it so vividly. Just to preface, I'm open to the idea of the paranormal, but for the most part I'm still a skeptic. I'm one of those, I wouldn't be surprised if ghosts really existed, but for now, I don't think they do sort of people. I believe there's an explanation for any paranormal experience we face, whether it's simple or complicated. My parents had immigrated from Vietnam in the 80s and did the whole Ellis Island immigration process. They've lived all over the country, but fast forward to 1993 where they had me in California. In 1999, my family was pretty poor and decided that we wanted to try and get a place with my cousin's family. This was my dad's brother's family. They went searching for a house in Sacramento, California. They found a place that was oddly cheap. If I can recall correctly, it was 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house with a gated automatic fence. This was really fancy back then, and it had a decently sized lot. Now here are the details that were told to me later in life when I got older and spoke to my parents about the house. There was obviously a catch to the low price point of the house. The offering price was due to the fact that it was known to be haunted. The real estate agent was very upfront about this and mentioned the history of the house. The original owner of this home died in the nursery of the house. The nursery was located underneath the stairs. Think Harry Potter cupboard, but much bigger and is actually a room. We are unsure of what the owner died from, but my parents didn't think that was necessary to know or even remember. My dad and his brother were skeptics at the time and were only interested in the price point. The real estate agent mentioned that there have been families that lived here that experienced paranormal activity and moved out fairly quickly. This did not stop them from taking the offer. There were many things that we experienced in this house, some very typical, such as creaky pipes and wood, extreme sudden cold temperatures, footsteps, etc. However, I'd like to just share what I deem to be the creepiest moments. Although it was a 5-bedroom house, we had to share the rooms due to 2 families living in the house. I shared a room with 2 of my cousins, both around my age. One of the nights I remembered, this was a couple weeks living here and we were already experiencing some pretty creepy things. I really needed a drink of water. We had a pact that if we ever went somewhere in the middle of the night, we would wake each other up and go together. So I woke up my cousins and told them to come with me to get a drink of water really quick. We had an uncle that stayed with us at the time. He's that uncle that goes from family to family to squat for as long as he can. He still does this to this day, actually. But that would stay anywhere he could. Well, he didn't mind taking the nursery. Obviously, when we were kids, our parents didn't inform us of all or any of the paranormal talk that they had. All of our experiences were discovered on our own. So as we walked down the stairs, we could hear our uncle groaning in his sleep, almost as though he was in pain. We sat on the stairs and continued to listen, and we were trying to make out what he was trying to say. We noticed that the name Sam kept coming up. We got our water and went back to sleep. The next day, we brought up what we heard Uncle said to our parents and told them he kept saying the name Sam. My parents looked at us in terror. Then they tried to play it off and said it was nothing of concern. We were kids, but we definitely knew they were hiding something from us, but we moved on from it. When we were older and talked about this incident, our parents finally told us the truth about that incident. My parents told me and my siblings, and I eventually told my cousins, who had already been told by their parents as well. Apparently, Sam is the name of the original owner that passed away in that nursery. They had not at all informed my uncle about the name of the owner. They confronted my uncle and he had no idea what they were even talking about. This sent chills up my spine, even so many years after the experience. Here was the last experience that was pretty much the okay, we're moving motive. After maybe 4 to 5 months, we had a Lunar New Year's party. Typically, these drinking parties will go on all night, and it usually ends up in a mellow talk to each other in the living room gathering to the end of the night sort of thing. It was probably 1 a.m. at this point, and the people that were left were all in the living room at the base of the stairs. Everyone was pretty much accounted for. As the night was dying down, everyone was chatting, and suddenly we hear doors, and maybe windows, start to slam shut upstairs, one by one. This lasted maybe 10 seconds. It almost didn't sound real because it seemed like there were more doors and windows shutting than we even had. Silence, as we all stopped and stared at the top of the stairs, terrified. My dad and brother started to walk up the stairs, and some of us crept behind him. They called out to see if anyone is up there, and no response. Here's the scary part. Every single door was open. There wasn't a single door that was actually slammed shut at all. Yet we all heard the doors shut, one after the other. I remember so vividly crying my eyes out when my uncle came back and said, "All the doors are open." We moved out within a week. My parents never shared with me the address of the place. They never wanted me to look it up any further either. I don't blame them. However, I'd be really interested in looking up more of the history of the house. I've tried Googling things such as Sam Sacramento house that was haunted, but found nothing. I remember what the house looks like, but as extensively as I've tried to search it up, I can't find it. I'd be interested if anyone is able to find the house I'm looking for. I'll leave a description of the house below. 2-story white house, very symmetrically boxy, big 2-car garage, black gates that surround the house that opened up by sliding gates that lead to the driveway in the garage, grass lawn with a decent-sized tree. The backyard was pretty much just cement and dead grass. It was located in the middle of the suburban street. It wasn't a corner house, not in a circular court, just a regular drive street between 2 other houses. Thank you for reading. This may be too long for some people to read, but I had to share. This is the first time I am posting anything online about this. I'm a 31-year-old woman, married, and recently moved back in with my parents due to moving back to the town I grew up. My husband and I are taking our time looking for our own place due to wanting to find something nice in the area, and that is usually hard to find. The story takes place in my parents' house, starting back 10 years ago. A description of the house for a bit of content. It's a 2-story brick stone house in city limits, but still surrounded by nothing but woods. You have to go through a garage that leads into the kitchen with the first bedroom to your left. Past the kitchen is the main living room, and to the right is the hall that is very open. In this area, you will find the main dining room and second living area, but if you continue straight, you will see the staircase to your left, and even further straight is my parents' bedroom and bathroom. Going up the stairs, you will come to the third living area. Yes, this is a huge house, with 2 sets of French doors side by side that lead to the outside balcony. Going straight, the sharp left leads you to the other 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. This is where the story takes place. The first time I stepped foot into this house, I immediately felt off, like something just wasn't right. I felt a presence, but I didn't know what or who it was. I brushed it off thinking I was just reading too much into it. I continued to feel this for the next couple of years, and because of this, I didn't much enjoy visiting them. My parents liked to gamble a lot back then, so they would ask me to babysit my baby brother and sister one day on the weekend. My boyfriend, who is now my husband, loved them, so he would always babysit with me. The first few times I didn't pay attention to the feeling I would get because we would be busy playing or eating with the kids. After that, things kind of chilled out and we would end up watching movies until it was time for us to go to bed. Now, my husband is a freak in nature. It's like he falls asleep the second his eyes is closed. Me, on the other hand, takes me forever to get comfortable enough to wind down my mind. I also don't sleep well even when I do finally get to sleep. This night was the first time I saw and heard something in this brand new house. In this room, the bed is facing the doorway, but not directly in front of it. With the double doors open, you can see the front of the staircase and all the way down the hallway, as long as the light is on, that is. This night, only one of the hallway lights were on. I was laying in bed with the TV on, but the volume down low so I could hear if one of the kids called me. I was almost asleep when I hear one of my siblings coming down the stairs. I open my eyes a bit and wait for them to get to the bottom, but they never do. I don't think anything of it, close my eyes and begin to drift off again. A few minutes later I hear again, so I open my eyes and wait, but again, they never get to the bottom. This time I sit up and listen, a bit spooked, but nothing I cannot handle. I get a bit nervous, but still I go check to see if they're there, and maybe they are scared to come all the way down or something. No one is there. Confused and thinking I must be dreaming it up, I go back to bed, this time closing one of the double doors. It was a few hours later, around 2:30 a.m., when I feel like someone is very near me, as if they are standing next to the bed right in front of me. Usually when I open my eyes, I would see the green glow of the alarm clock on the bedside table, but this time I saw nothing. It was pitch black. I couldn't even see the hallway light on, and the TV had turned off on its own. I felt like I couldn't move. I was awake now and scared to my bones. I was finally able to call out to my husband and call his name loud enough to wake him. He reached over and turned on the light, and right then the scared feeling went away and I was able to move. I freaked out and started crying. I couldn't begin to explain to him what happened because even if I had, he didn't believe in those things. So I told him I was having a nightmare and asked him to go check on the kids. When he came back, he said the kids were fine and got back in bed. With the light on, I was able to fall back asleep, but it took me forever. The next day, I told my mom about what happened, and that's when she told me. She had been hearing footsteps on the stairs at night and even saw someone standing by the door at times. She didn't tell anyone because she did not want to scare the kids. This is when she told me what she had done. She wanted to know what was going on in her house, so she went and bought a voice recorder. One day, she decided to use it and went upstairs while everyone was gone. She asked your typical questions of who is here, what do you want, and why are you here, and then said, "You've passed away and need to go into the light. You are not welcome here." The next day, she decided to leave the recorder in one of the bedrooms upstairs while it was recording for about 4 hours while she was out running errands. I asked if she had checked it, and to my surprise, she said she was too afraid to listen to it alone. I wanted to listen to it. Off we went to the computer, and we began listening to it after it was uploaded. During the 4 hours she was gone, you could hear something clicking or tapping. Sounds of a drawer opening and closing, but we weren't sure. Then we listened to the part where she was asking questions. Now you could hear a sound that resembled a fan or maybe static throughout the whole thing, so some sounds were indistinguishable. But the one sound we did hear chilled us to the core. When she asked, "What do you want?" it gave us an answer. I'm changing my brother's name for this, but the answer was Jamie. It didn't answer any other questions except for that one. I cried immediately. He wasn't having night terrors for no reason. Something was there for him, every night. We soon asked a friend to cleanse the house. For a long time, everything has been okay. My brother stopped having night terrors. My mom was able to sleep comfortably, and all was good again. Until now. I've been living in this house for a month and a half. For the last 3 weeks, I've been seeing things everywhere, especially when I'm alone. Because of this, I won't stay alone anymore. I get this strong feeling of being watched. I had the feeling of someone pulling on my blanket at night. I think it is time for another cleanse. Oh, and just an FYI, I'm the third generation on my mother's side of the family that is able to see spirits. My dad's side of the family has, in the past before I was born, practiced black magic. I don't like speaking to them, and I won't dabble in any of the spiritual stuff most people do. I stay as far away from it as possible, and I recommend you do too. Even if you are careful, these spirits can haunt for a long time, even after you are gone. Let me start by saying, before this sequence of events, I was 100% a non-believer of the paranormal. I'm still in shock of what I witnessed yesterday, but I'll tell you the whole thing from the beginning. 1 month ago, in my apartment building, some weird noises started, like someone was doing some construction work on their flat. I didn't pay much attention. Someone should be repairing stuff or something of that sort. It started on a Friday, and it was almost always in the afternoon when it started, ending like at 2 or 3 a.m. The weekend, same thing. Morning quiet, rest of the day busy with a noise looking like someone was hammering something. Everyone that was on the right side of the building, my side, was starting to get annoyed, mostly because everyone wanted to rest to be able to work on the next day. Of course, we started to find the location of the source. We were trying to pin it down to this one apartment. There's also another building close to ours where the walls connect. I've gone to every apartment, up on my ear near to the lock, and almost no sound, just propagation. The flat most affected is my upper neighbor, where she lives with her daughter. We thought that it should be the apartment above her making all this noise, even though the water supply is shut down, same with electricity, so logically no one should be living there. But we had to be 100% sure, so we called the owner and asked her kindly to open the apartment so we could check if someone was using it or had forced an entrance. No one was there, and the noise could be heard. It was coming from the apartment under, where my neighbor above lives, so we ruled out that the inhabited apartment was the source. Time goes by, and this phenomenon repeats every day. No misses. Bangs on the wall, bangs on every division of the apartment of my neighbor, on the furniture, things falling on the bathroom and kitchen, etc. Police were called 3 times, but of course they couldn't solve anything. They entered this flat, also heard the noises, but could not pinpoint where all the sound was coming from. It also travels very fast, from the kitchen to the living room. Also on the corridor, this is on the first floor, we started to bang the wooden walls, and we would have replies, more bangs from this unknown source, even asking questions and saying, knock once for yes, knock twice for no. We would get replies. If I knock 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, etc., I would get the same number of knocks answering me. It is very weird. Fast forward to the last days. Both my neighbor and her daughter went away for the weekend. Magically, the sound stopped. I didn't know this until yesterday. I just thought, finally, the effing noise went away. They returned yesterday. And guess what also did return? Yeah, that's right. The knocking noises again. So I was in the corridor with both my upper neighbor and another from the same corridor chatting. Both her and her daughter were outside the flat. Her daughter playing with another girl, the other neighbor's granddaughter, and by this time 0 noises. We were all chilling in the corridor, but later on, her daughter went inside to pick a doll to play. We started hearing the knocks again. Every single time her daughter went inside, we would hear after 3 or 5 seconds the knocks. So I asked my neighbor, "Can I go inside?" She replies, "Yes, of course." So I went inside. Full silence. I stood there like 30 seconds. Nothing. I came out, asked my neighbor if she can go inside as well. She goes inside. 0 knocks. We ask her daughter if she can go inside again, and boom. Knocking all over the place. I kid you not. This didn't miss in like 10 or 12 times she went inside. Every single time. Knocks. Later on, other neighbors arrived at the corridor. We did the same request. He went inside. 0 noises. Daughter goes. Full-blown knocks. I don't know how to deal or solve this situation. After what I've witnessed, I'm 100% sure this is something out of this world. Edit. I will update when we get a medium to come to our building. We sold our house because I think it's haunted. I've written about this before, but in the wrong subreddit, which was deleted. It was titled Bathroom Double Take, where I described a doppelganger-like situation with my husband. So if anyone had read about that experience and is now in this post, this is an update. After a few months of us living in this home, in which we plan to use as our second home, we have decided to sell it after some unusual experiences. Our real estate salesperson and the person who bought our home are aware of my claims and have made an informed decision to purchase this home despite my claims. They probably think I'm a nut. The home is not an old one. It was built in 2019 and we're the third owners. We've gotten an air quality test done in the home. Both my husband and I have gotten physical examinations and nothing out of the ordinary has come out of these tests. Now we'll get into my experience. We bought our winter home last year in June of 2021. Originally, we are from Canada, but we have spent the majority of the pandemic between the US and recently Costa Rica. My first experience was while I was taking a shower. The house has an ensuite washroom when you enter the room. If you go to the left, you will go towards the bathroom. If you go to the right, you will end up in the bedroom. From the shower, you can see the entrance to the bedroom. One afternoon while I was showering, I watched my half-naked husband walk into the bedroom with a glass of lemonade. I then turned around to wash the soap off my face and then turned back towards the door to rinse the shampoo out of my hair. This is when I saw my husband enter the bedroom again with the lemonade. When I exited the shower, I asked my husband if he re-entered the room a couple of times, and he said he only came into the bedroom once and has been there for the majority of my shower. My husband had a similar experience. He was in the backyard looking into the kitchen. He claimed he saw me leave the kitchen and walk towards the mudroom. He was very confused when he entered the house to find it empty, only to find out I had been out for a couple of hours. On multiple occasions, I've heard the sound of my husband's car dragging on the driveway. We have the steepest driveway on the block. Every time he parks in the garage, you hear the distinct sound of the bottom of the car scraping the driveway. When I hear this, I usually unlock the garage door. There have been multiple times where I've heard this sound, unlock the door just to find out he isn't home. We've both heard unexplainable whistling sounds that stop once we acknowledge the sound. I guess it could just be the vents, but for 3 days last week our thermostat stopped working and we still heard the whistling. There have been other trivial occurrences. I once woke up in the middle of the night because the fridge door alarm was going off. We have those annoying automatic toilets where the lid lifts when it detects motion. Well, those open on their own sometimes. I understand with modern upgrades they're going to be malfunctioning, so I put those experiences under the questionable category. So we've spent the past week packing our things. We're those psychopaths that do not store anything in our garage other than our vehicles. The only other thing that is found in the garage is the water softener tank, but that's it. So one lovely night, the car alarm goes off on both vehicles. Convinced that we are being robbed, we call the police, and of course, the neighborhood security also comes by just to see that our cars are perfectly in the garage with no signs of an intruder. We officially moved out of the house 3 days before closing. We could not bear another day there, and our neighbor texted me to ask what all the commotion was at our house. I have no idea what she is talking about because we moved out. I may sound like a cook, but we've lived in so many houses and we've never experienced anything like this. Edit. I forgot to mention, this house was a teardown. There was another house on the same property that I think was built in the 60s.